Happy February 13th. JLD here, and welcome to Strategy Today. In this show, we talk about why. Why is Michael Saylor and Strategy waiting to issue these convertible notes? We also talk about Bitcoin as a refinery, what that exactly means. We talk about what it's going to take for MSTR, for Strategy, to go to Valhalla. We talk about the Bitcoin 150K setup, what it's going to take to get Bitcoin to 150K and why that setup looks great. I also have an amazing video from last night's show from the MSTR North crew. Jeff Walton talks for another reason about why Michael Saylor and Strategy are waiting on these convertible bonds, on these convertible note issuances, and so much more. And remember, this video is not financial advice. And please comment below. Let me know where you're watching from, what questions you have, what thoughts you're having. Great conversations are happening in the comments, so make it happen. And let's dive in. All right, today's first post is from Chris. He shares, Strategy is a Bitcoin refinery that aggregates Bitcoin and standardizes it for all types of investors. This is the power of Strategy. This is the brilliance of Michael Saylor and the Strategy team. What are they doing? They are taking raw Bitcoin, they are becoming a refinery, and then they are creating securitized Bitcoin for everybody, for whoever wants it in this form of dividends, converse, equity, ETFs, options. And I love this quote from Michael Saylor. Strategy has made a strategic decision to securitize Bitcoin as an asset class. We will live or die based on Bitcoin. Let's go. Great post from Bitcoin Overflow. Why hasn't MSTR issued any convertible bonds lately? And updates. Since my prior analysis, both implied vol and historical vol have continued to decline, making it difficult for MSTR to secure favorable CB pricing. That's convertible bonds pricing. Bitcoin NGU, that's number go up, is the antidote, but I now think it will be later in Q1. So as you can see, this is a chart of option volume, and these are the months, of course, and this is like what's been happening. So you can see we had a huge spike, obviously, in November when things went out of control, and MSTR actually hit a top of like $543 per share. And then ever since then, we've just seen a decline in this vol. And this is kind of his circles, like where we're at right now. So a lot of people in the comments are like, why hasn't he issued convertible bonds yet? What is he waiting for? And this is a great explanation from Bitcoin Overflow as to why he hasn't issued any convertible bonds lately. Michael Saylor has stated that Q1 is the quarter that he's going to be issuing more fixed income, more convertible bonds. He's already said that multiple times, but what is looking like, and then there's a video coming up at the end that Jeff talks about, is that they're waiting for volume, this implied vol and historical vol, to increase, to break this downward trend, to start to kind of move upwards and maybe even spike upwards. And that's going to be a better environment to issue convertible bonds. So I hope that helps as to why people are thinking like, what could possibly be a reason they're waiting? Like, why are they waiting? This is a reason for sure. Next post by Chris. Michael Saylor is a founder whose time has come. I just wanted to include this because I think it's such a true and profound statement. Michael Saylor, he started grinding his face off probably a lot earlier than 1989 because it looks like he probably was always this person that just worked super hard. But since 1989, he's been grinding his face off with the company, which at that time, of course, was MicroStrategy. And now what is this? Like 36 years later, he's still grinding, and the company is Strategy. But luckily, almost 5 years ago, he made the decision that we are going to adopt a Bitcoin standard and go all in. And he's been executing at a relentless pace for the past 4.5, almost 5 years now. And that's why his stock, MSTR, our investment Strategy, is the best performing stock in the past 4.5 years. So to say that he's a founder whose time has come is just so true, and I wanted to share that. And the next post I want to share is from Adam Livingston, who talks about Bitcoin setup for a parabolic run to $150,000. The stage is set for Bitcoin to break through six figures and blast towards $150,000. This is a perfect storm of supply shock, institutional demand, and macro tailwinds. Let's break it down. One, liquidity crunch meets supply shock. MSTR has acquired 471,107 Bitcoin they aren't selling. ETFs are consuming thousands of Bitcoin daily. There are only, give or take, 2 million Bitcoin left on exchanges. At this rate, a demand shock is inevitable. Two, institutional capital flowing in. BlackRock, Fidelity, and ARK didn't launch ETFs to quote unquote test the waters. They launched them to corner the market before TradFi front runs the next cycle. Pensions, sovereign wealth funds, and hedge funds are trickling in now. But once Bitcoin is a must-own asset in legacy portfolios, the floodgates will open. Three, macro tailwinds favor hard money. The Fed is cornered. Inflation is sticky, debt is skyrocketing, and real rates are unsustainable. Rate cuts are coming. U.S. debt to GDP is over 120%. Fiat dilution is accelerating. Bitcoin is pure anti-fragility. Bitcoin's correlation to gold is increasing as it cements its status as digital gold 2.0. Four, technicals aligning for a parabolic breakouts. Ascending accumulation zones mirror early 2021. The last correction shook out weak hands. Strong hands are buying every dip. A confirmed break above 100K will trigger massive FOMO, and momentum traders are piling in. Five, the halving supercycle effect. Every halving has catalyzed 1,000% plus moves over time. This time, supply is tighter, demand is higher, and institutional adoption is real. Bitcoin isn't just, quote, an investment anymore. It's becoming global collateral. 150,000 is a conservative target. The fundamentals, technicals, and macro conditions all align for Bitcoin's next major leg up. There is no exit liquidity at 100K. There's only the next phase of hyper adoption. Not financial advice, but also don't fade the inevitable. Dun, dun, dun. All right, let's keep moving. Love Adam's posts. He's so bullish, which I love, and he's also such a great writer. Bitcoin overflow. I understand the frustration and impatience people have with MSTR right now. I really do. But Saylor can't do this all by himself. Big Daddy Bitcoin has to lend a hand for us to reach Valhalla. And I thought this was a great post about here's BTC volatility, holding up MSTR volatility, which is then doing a nice little dunk into Valhalla, going to Valhalla. So, I see a lot of people in the comments and on social media being like, why is strategy chopping? Like, I thought that they were just going to go parabolic up and to the right forever. Like, Bitcoin is chopping. Bitcoin has been up and down and flat and choppy and has not been moving upwards with any aggressiveness or any definiteness. So if that's the case, guess what? MSTR is going to be taking its lead from Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin's volatility that leads to MSTR's super volatility, which of course leads us as investors to Valhalla. So is it coming? I absolutely think so. When? I absolutely don't know. But this video coming up from Jeff talks a lot about why Michael Saylor is likely waiting very patiently until potentially mid to late March to issue the major part of these CBs. I mean, who knows what Strategy and Michael Saylor are saying, but are thinking, I should say. But this video from Jeff and the MSTR True North guys does a really good job of just trying to kind of maybe hypothesize a little bit about that. So Jeff, take it away.
The first Quant Bros video that Ryan and I did, it was the can MSTR hit $10,000, and that would be a $1,000 price target from here. So I think it's still incredibly possible. In fact, I think something with another zero on that is even possible.
Yeah, it's definitely probable and it's possible for sure.
Yeah. And I put out that information on long-term CAGR here, right? Like just earlier today that if you just do a classic zoom out, right, and you take a conservative view of Bitcoin compound annual growth rate of 25%, Bitcoin's going to $1 million in 12 years, $1.5 million in 12 years. And if MSTR does 1.5 that, the price of MSTR is going to $14,000 in 12 years. And it's one of those like zoom out long term. We talk about this weekly. There's a ton of macro things in the market that are going on here, but the company itself is significantly deleveraged compared to where it was like last bear market cycle. If the price of Bitcoin fell 50% tomorrow, MSTR is still incredibly strong.
Yes.
Right. They're still incredibly strong, and they're in position to raise more capital and debt to kind of push Bitcoin back up. So, I mean, that's the point of running through the macro environment before talking about some of this stuff too. People are making fun of me for talking with my hands. I do it all the time, and
I do too.
But the point of talking about the macro environment is to help explain why everything seems to be kind of frozen right now. I think everybody's waiting for somebody to move in an aggressive direction, and maybe it's strategy, maybe it's FASB fair value accounting in May. Once we see Bitcoin close at the end of March, in thinking about the game theory of how Saylor would approach this, if I were in his shoes, I would want to be trying to push the price of Bitcoin up at the end of March and not early at all, because FASB fair value accounting for digital assets it impacts strategy for the first time after Q1. Q1 closes on March 31st. If they shoot their shot and Bitcoin rises, early and then falls back down at the end of March, they're not going to be able to quantify and calculate that gain on their balance sheet for Q1, which would potentially qualify them for the S&P 500 inclusion. So I would want to be trying to issue convertible debt throughout the entire month of March to be pushing the price of Bitcoin up as high as possible at the end of the period to initiate a very large earning per share gain that's announced in May. And that stimulates the market to continue to look at what's going on here. It's going to hit front page of news headlines. Strategy is going to have $75 billion of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And that's going to start to be a really big deal.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of Strategy Today. I hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, please give it a like. Please comment below where you're watching from, what you liked, what you thought was interesting. Very valuable to us. Remember, this video is not financial advice. And let's check below. This is my receipt for my DCA right here. On February 13th, there's a settlement date. I purchased $211 worth of MSTR at a $318 price point. 0.662 share of MSTR is coming my way. And on Saturday, I will be updating the DCA portfolio tracker. So check out that for sure. And remember that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You're hanging out with me on Strategy Today. So thank you for that. Make sure you're really curating those other individuals that you're spending time with, because there's going to be a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty and doubt that's out there in the world as we enter into this next leg into the market, into the Bitcoin bull run or a pullback or whatever it is. You're going to have to be surrounded by the right people with the right mindsets. And I'm honored that you've chosen me to be one of those individuals, at least for this 10 to 15 minute block of your daily time. And also remember, like the great Michael Saylor said, there is no second best.
What's the second best? There is no second best.